I know. Being excited about a Souls-like is about as rare a sight as Assassin's Creed Shadows stepping in controversy. Just about every year has seen one or two Game of the Year contenders in the ever-popular genre. But even after playing so many games, running from bonfire to bonfire and dying innumerable times to punishing bosses, I still came away pretty surprised by the First Berserker. This game is a Souls-like through and through, and there's no denying it. But its emphasis on cinematic storytelling and strong character development helped distinguish itself from that crowd. Here are 5 reasons we think will make it one of the biggest games of 2025. An offline single-player experience. The First Berserker is set in Korean developer Nexon's Dungeon Fighter Online universe, but don't be too put off by its connection to an existing IP. After all, it takes place a whopping 800 years before the events of the successful side-scrolling beat-em-up RPG. But where DNG lives and breathes in the live service atmosphere, the First Berserker is a strictly offline single-player experience. The awesome voice cast. If there's one thing I took away from all the preview coverage of the game, it's the unexpected banger of a voice cast. The First Berserker managed to snatch up some of the busiest and most prolific voice actors in the action RPG space today. Ben Starr is the perfect match for the road-weary Khazan. Starr, who famously voiced Clive from Final Fantasy XVI, pulls off that rugged and beat-up warrior tone in an unmatched way. And that's exactly how Khazan should sound. He's a vaunted hero turned prisoner, someone who should be basking in the glory of the kingdom's citizens, but is punished by that very kingdom instead.
We can work together. Cooperate.
Betrayed and abandoned, Khazan really sounds as if he's been put through hell, and we have Ben Starr's signature voice to thank for that. There's a distinctness to Khazan's intonation, so he doesn't just sound like another version of Clive as well, which is good. Another key character we'll be hearing a lot of throughout the story is Blade Phantom, a unified collection of spirits that tries to possess Khazan's body for itself. Anthony Howell, who played Margit from Elden Ring, the foul tarnished boss, pulls off Blade Phantom's menacing and sinister aggression beautifully. The sound team designed a legion of overlapping voices utilizing distinct tones as a representation of Blade Phantom's splintered essence. Throughout the game, you'll be interacting with a slew of other significant characters, like the scholar Daphrona and the disgraced aristocrat Lantimos, each played by actors that plenty of players will recognize. And it's apparent these characters aren't just one-off interactions either. In the Unveil the Voice video, actor Wilf Scolding says his character has, quote, loads of scenes with other characters who don't necessarily like his character. It seems likely we'll interact with these key characters repeatedly throughout the game's central hub area called the Crevice. It'll be fun to check back on characters as the game's narrative advances, getting a more complete glimpse at characters' backstories. But don't take my word for it. Go check out the Unveil the Voice video from Khazan's official YouTube channel to see how great the acting is shaping up. The behind the scenes may not reach the pinnacle brilliance of KCD2's live-action videos, but it's a wonderful glimpse into the passion and enthusiasm the actors and sound team have put into this game. The excellent cel-shaded art style. Another factor that elevates the characters of the First Berserker is the colorful cel-shaded art style. The game isn't shy about its visual anime leanings. Fortunately, this isn't some cheap attempt at capturing such a well-trod style. The lip syncing is impressive, matching English voice lines seamlessly, and characters move with mannerisms and quirks unique to their personality. What we've seen of the cinematography and scene direction is absolutely impressive. Environments look nice and painterly as well, making good use of Unreal Engine 5. And if the demo's first snow area is anything to go by, the game promises some impressive sights. One thing that I noticed during my time in the demo is how linear and straightforward the levels are, at least at the start of the game. This is no Elden Ring. If anything, I found myself thinking back to Neo and the kind of basic level pathing that game had. A side path here or there leads to treasure or occasional mini-bosses, And even though environmental design is pretty basic, there's still the good old-fashioned looping shortcuts. Wearing its Souls-like identity proudly. If you haven't caught on already, yes, the First Berserker wears its Souls-like identity proudly. You heal and respawn at checkpoints resembling bonfires, and level up by spending the required amount of souls, or lacrima as it's named here. I love how snappy and instant respawning is. Dying isn't nearly as punishing or irritating as it could be thanks to such instant respawns. Combat is just as fast as respawning, which is sure to please Bloodborne or Wukong fans. The fact that you can kill most early enemies in just 3 chained heavy attacks means backtracking to a boss you're stuck on doesn't need to be a laborious slog. Of course, we haven't seen how spongy enemies might be past these early access parts. Even if enemies do have padded health in other sections, the break mechanic at least promises moments of vulnerability in opponents. Heavy attacks break enemies faster than normal attacks. Once an opponent is broken and their stamina is depleted, a brutal attack indicator pops up, allowing you to chop off a significant amount of their health bar. Brutal attacks aren't the kind of crazy spectacle one might expect, but they still feel visceral and satisfying. The break system also encourages a mastery of parrying, since parries heavily drain enemy stamina. The first significant boss of the game really impressed me with its diverse moveset. Yatuga's attacks are telegraphed, so parries and perfect dodges can be pulled off reliably, and the amount of cheap moments and awkward cameras are pretty much non-existent. This boss kept me on my toes with its ramped up aggression halfway through its health bar. There's no doubt in my mind that the First Berserker will supply some of the year's most engaging and thrilling boss fights. Engaging progression. Like this simple level design, stats are streamlined to offer a more focused kind of progression. There's only 5 attributes: vitality, endurance, strength, willpower, and proficiency. It's probably a good thing that the game doesn't bog us down with a complex character sheet, because there's plenty of variety in the weapon types. Each weapon type has its own dedicated skill tree and mastery progression that you can explore. Dual swords feel quite different than the greatsword, and the range of unique skills and passive buffs through each tree promises a wealth of build options. And lastly, you can fashion souls it up with tons of armor combinations. Complete armor sets apply buffs, rendering hoarding a worthwhile pursuit. And of course, all armor shows on Khazan's character model. Look, play the demo if you're at all on the fence about the First Berserker. Progress carries over to the full game, and it's a lot of fun with its fast-paced action combat. Fans of Souslikes haven't been starved for good games the last decade, and the First Berserker looks to be one of the most promising ones of 2025. Its unique focus on story and characters help differentiate it enough from the more esoteric narratives of Elden Ring or half a dozen other similar titles. Like many of you, I'm a complete newcomer to the Dungeon Fighter Online universe. I didn't know what to expect, but came away intrigued to learn more about the game's world and Khazan's role in it. And I'm looking forward to trying my hand at some more boss fights come March 27th, full release.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.